Way better. Excellent. Great. All right, very cool. So, where are we and what are we doing?
We're currently in the Eberron Hall of Heroes, looking at a portal to the Temple of Elemental Evil. The gatekeepers have learned about mysterious remnants, which you folks have been finding for a while now, and the gatekeepers want to investigate them. They've managed to use mysterious remnants to build this portal, and have detected more mysterious remnants on the other side, but they've decided discretion is a better part of valor, and they're asking you to go investigate it, and they'll stay here and study it.
Wait, what? A faction isn't going into danger and sending adventurers instead? That's crazy.
So we should mention, just for those DDO players who are watching this here, that, again, the Hall of Heroes is where you're going to enter the Temple of Elemental Evil. All the NPCs will be there, both for the Heroic and Epic versions. Heroic approximately starts at level 7, and Epic starts at level 30.
30, yep.
And you can enter Part 1 or Part 2, essentially, because there are two main, basically, huge zones here, straight from us, going through this portal here in the Hall of Heroes. Yep. You can also go into Part 2 from Part 1 if that's something that you want to do. We're going to go in on Epic Normal here, just to kind of show that off.
And just to remind folks, this is based on the classic Temple of Elemental Evil module from the 1980s, and people who remember that module will remember this shot that we're about to see in a second.
Cool. Yeah, let's actually talk about that. That's we don't want to give that too short a shrift here. This is our interpretation of the classic Temple of Elemental Evil Dungeons and Dragons module, and you got the chance to really do a lot of work on that. What was that like?
Oh, it was very interesting. I had some familiarity before we started with the module, and spent a lot of time at first really digging down, finding out sort of what some of the core encounters were in there, and really just taking a lot of time to figure out how to adapt the original module, which is a very non-linear exploration-based kind of thing, and kind of keep that spirit in it while adding a sort of linear path like a lot of our DDO dungeons have. So if you want to just run the story of the dungeon start to finish, you can absolutely do that, but if you're the kind of player that just wants to explore whatever dangers you can find in the dungeon, that's there too.
So what we're looking at right now is in fact the box cover, except that it is a DDO level. And there is a little bit you can explore on the outside.
I think maybe I'll leave that to people to find.
Yes.
I don't want to spoil that too much, so yeah.
Or you can go in through the front door, which is mysteriously and disturbingly open. It had been sealed, but now the seals are broken, which veterans of the module will understand the dire significance of.
Maybe I should just take a quick pause now that we're here at the very start of the dungeon to let you guys know about our spoiler intentions here. We are going to be spoiling just a little bit of Temple. What you'll be seeing is some of the monsters. You'll see a few areas, and we are intending to show you a basic... we're going to enter the final zone at the end of the broadcast here, but we're not going to start the fight. And the reason for that is we know that you guys are excited to take a look at Zuggtmoy, and we want to let you see her. But we also don't want to give too much away for those who maybe don't want to have things spoiled too much for them. So that's what you can expect here. We're going to try to keep it fairly spoiler light, but we are going to show off a few images for you. And if that's an issue for you, then perhaps just listening will be something you could do, or you can sort of skip ahead if you're watching this on YouTube. That kind of
Yeah, and if your DMs are running you in the dungeon currently on tabletop, you probably want to tune out.
Well, actually, you probably want to start taking some notes.
Yeah, take some notes.
Everyone's seen that one episode? Yeah.
It's Otis.
Yes.
It's Otis, which again, people who are familiar with the original module will remember. And he's come from Nulb to investigate the temple.
And most importantly, he will fix your gear.
He will fix your gear, yes. After you've talked to him the first time, you can come back to Otis later on and he'll fix up your stuff for you.
You can also get coal from him, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. And to the left of Otis, you'll also notice a overgrown workbench.
Very interesting. I don't know. How much do we want to get into the loot system right off the bat?
Probably not too deep. No Worries handled a lot of the loot for this update, but basically, there are craftable weapons and armor in this update, and you'll get some of the pieces you need to create those throughout both the first and second dungeon, and then you can bring them back here to craft upgrades onto them.
Cool. And it's really just through a resource mechanic, which you may well see as we're going through the dungeon here. I am an unadmin character, so I'm kind of, cheating. But you will not be. But this will make things easier to preview here. So as you can see, you can really see some of the scale here, if I zoom in, of the Temple of Elemental Evil. This is just the opening room, and we have a lot of space. This is, I know we've said this during other things, but this is, our biggest space? Or close to our
Well, it's probably our biggest enclosed dungeon.
Right.
Most of the temple is, in fact, underground, which is where we're going to go in a second. And it sprawls on a great extents underground.
True. It's split into, both dungeons are each split into a couple of different maps. I think there's 10 or so distinct different maps through the two dungeons combined. And I think the first dungeon, in terms of sheer floor space, might be one of the biggest, if not the biggest dungeon in DDO.
Cool. So, we're fighting temple cultists. Why don't we just talk in sort of very general terms. What is the Temple of Elemental Evil, for those who don't know, and why are we going there?
The Temple of Elemental Evil is a gathering place for all sorts of evil creatures who come to the four temples devoted to the four elements to worship. At least that's what the world thinks. It is, in fact, actually controlled by the demon Zuggtmoy, who is using it for her own nefarious ends. And you're here for two reasons. One is because the gatekeepers asked you to investigate mysterious remnants. The other reason is you are in search of treasure and adventure, the most classic and traditional Dungeons & Dragons motives. And there's plenty on tap in here.
Alright, so for those who have played Temple of Elemental Evil in module format, what can they expect this to be like?
You'll see a large section of the temple itself. There are some areas we didn't do, but we have tried to stay as faithful to the layout as we could.
Yeah. Do you want to open the map for a second, Jerry?
Sure.
So, in building the space, you can't get a perfect look at it from this map, but we tried, especially with the first couple floors of the temple, to stick as close to the maps of the original module as we could. There's a few places where hallways were a little too close together or extremely diagonal that we sort of adjusted to make DDO run a little better, but overall we tried to stay really faithful to the layouts that you'd remember if you've played the module before.
And in the tradition of classic D&D modules, the original module was very sort of free-form. You could make of it what you wanted. You could have it be a traditional hack-and-slash adventure. You could make it into political intrigue if that's what the DM wanted to do. It being DDO and also it being 2 dungeons, not 20, our version is more of the hack and slash, explore, find cool stuff. Find cool monsters, kill them, and take their stuff.
But things that you may recall from playing the adventure, we tried to bring as much of that in as we could. We're very successful in many cases here. So.
And you'll meet characters from the original module. You can meet Kelno, the last cleric of the Air Temple. You will also meet some rares who are not in the original module, because we wanted to add some surprises as well.
I'm going to skip around a little bit here in just a second, but I thought these kind of generic fights would be a great sort of just background for more of this kind of lore-heavy stuff.
And one thing to mention about the temple is that large sections of it are populated using random encounters. Again, just as in old-school D&D modules. Which means you may get very different stuff depending, and it also means we don't actually know what we're going to get as we go through the corridors.
I wanted to take just a minute to answer a couple of questions from the chat room. Dan Teal asks, so is this in the Forgotten Realms, Eberron, or somewhere else?
That's actually an interesting question. When you talk to the gatekeepers, they say this portal goes to someplace in the same plane, but it's so far away it couldn't possibly be on Eberron. And that's all they know about it. And that's all I can tell you, because I don't know more than the gatekeepers know.
All right. Next, because I know that people have been asking.
Oh yeah.
Next question, Dan Teal asks, will there be a mechanic where you can complete part of the dungeon, leave, and then come back to where you were? That's part of what you saw with the NPC at the front there, but maybe we can expand a little bit more on that.
Not exactly, no. I mean, like any other DDO dungeon, it opens an instance. You can play through the instance, but if you leave, before completing the dungeon, you'll have to start over. It was part of our reasoning for splitting such a large thing as Temple of Elemental Evil into 2 dungeons. We wanted each of the dungeons to be large enough to be significant in a fairly, substantial dungeon crawl, if that's what you want to do, but also not be so long that, if you've got an hour or 2, that you couldn't complete it in that amount of time. So we're hoping that if you sort of have limited time, that either completing Temple 1 or Temple 2 is doable in a decent time frame.
Yeah, each of the dungeons has a critical path that can be completed in a reasonable DDO dungeon amount of time, and each of the dungeons also has a bunch of stuff off the beaten path that you can search for and look for. While you're doing that, there are also kill X monster optional objectives. So while you're doing that, you will be earning some experience as you rack up more and more kills, so that your time is compensated for.
And unlike our Explorer zones, the optionals for killing extra monsters in the dungeon do reset every time you play the dungeon, so you can always get XP for killing monsters as you're making your way through the dungeon.
That actually answers a question Technical 13 had, which is, what is the top tier on those kills? And the answer is essentially, it resets every time.
It resets every time. Right now, 750 is the limit per run of the dungeon, but we've been considering pushing that up before it goes to live, because a lot of people seem to actually be hitting that. So.
All right. Titan asks, were the elementals designed to have huge amounts of hit points? The answer to that is yes.
To an extent. I think we are actually bringing down the hit points on some of those elementals a little bit, but they are supposed to be fairly tough fights.
Yes.
They're going to hit a little harder and have a few less hit points probably the next time you see them.
But those elementals, the earth elementals, there's a trick to it. You can go in and just kill them, and it will be a tough fight, or you can do something else, and if you do something else, it will be considerably easier.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. That's what I was trying to hint at. All right, let's see. RD2 plays a question about fortification on the heroic armor. Like I say, our specific guy that did that work isn't here right now. Don't have a direct answer for you, but you can find that on Lamania if you're interested pretty soon. Alright. Skunk City asks, is there a heroic option of Temple of Elemental Evil? Yes. It starts at level 7, so 7, 8, 9 for normal hard elite. And yes. So. Alright, what do we want to port to here?
If you want to go into the water temple, you're just outside.
Oh yeah, right, there we go.
So you can probably just walk on in.
Right, so the first...
I smite you.
The first dungeon revolves around the 4 elemental temples, sub-temples within the Temple of Elemental Evil. There's an earth temple, an air temple, a water temple, etc. This is the water temple, which is my favorite.
So on walking in, there's a water altar, which is seemingly deprived of water. If you want to move forward, you'll have to basically fill it with water.
Got some gargoyles and such. I'm going to keep this fairly quick because I want to make sure we have time for your questions and all that as well. We're just going to show off a little bit of a... Here's the fire node here. like I say, I think I'm not going to spoil too much other than just give you a bit of a screenshot look at it.
Yes, we managed to not see the part of the water temple that makes it my favorite, but that'll be a nice surprise for folks.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is the fire temple. Unlike some of the other temples, the people in here aren't immediately aggressive. In fact, they're kind of inviting you in. There are ways to not make them angry. It's probably a good idea.
Or you can just make them angry.
You could just make them angry.
Paladins will want to make them angry.
Yes.
They are evil, after all.
What? They're just misunderstood.
Alright, let's see. Where
Yes, the
this
Temple
is.
of Elemental Misunderstanding. That'll be the sequel.
How about if I go mouse look? There we go. Oops. What am I?
You might need to turn the UI back on. Or admin
Is that
commands
it?
don't go. Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, it is.
Hey, there we go.
There you are.
By the way, I don't know if you enjoy this guild of playtesting, guild of the playtesting
Testing of the raid. Yeah.
So,
I think that was something from Background Mark of Death when we were running that.
pretty funny. Okay, there's our water guy. All right, so we are going to head off. Now, we're not going to get too deep into this either, but here is going to be a brief look at the very end of the first part. Yep.
Right,
Like,
so-
we'll keep it pretty spoiler light here, but yeah.
Your goal in the first dungeon is to find out more about what's going on in the temple, especially with regard to mysterious remnants. And the one lead Otis had for you at the beginning was that you should seek out a wizard named Falrinth. In the original module, Falrinth was kind of an optional boss. He had his own little corner of the third floor where he and his familiar kind of hang out. They have a much more prominent role here, where he's sort of boarded up his quarters where he's keeping all of his cool stuff, and doesn't want you getting at the items he's used to help free Zuggtmoy.
Yeah, so just mention that while you've been finding mysterious remnants, Falrinth has been finding mysterious remnants as well.
And that's all I want to show you.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't want to spoil it.
It's a fun fight.
Yep. Yep.
Kind of an interesting mechanic to it. I think it's going to be a pretty interesting
I
battle.
will give a hint and say it involves elements and evil.
True.
So once you defeat Falrinth, that's the end of the first dungeon. The second dungeon deals with two different things. One is the elemental nodes, which are little areas carved out of the different elemental planes. You can explore those nodes. And also fighting Zuggtmoy herself, the demon queen who rules the Temple of Elemental Evil.
Right. So we have a new character here. So tell me a little bit about Zuggtmoy, without getting too spoiler heavy in regards to the plot here. But Zuggtmoy is someone that people familiar with D&D will probably be familiar with. So, but for those who don't know, who is Zuggtmoy?
She is, of course, the demon queen of fungi. Well, just as, Wolf is the demon queen of spiders, she is the demon queen of fungi.
Now that sounds fun, but why would that be a bad thing? Why is she evil?
Why is she evil?
Yeah.
Well, why is anyone?
Why is anything in their nature?
The fun guy?
But she is one of the big bads of D&D.
Yeah.
A major power.
Yep. Let's see. Take a quick look at the questions here.
Yes, the fifth element is fungi.
There you go. All right. If you guys have any questions about what you see here, let us know. Otherwise, I think we're just going to move on here and give you guys a little hint of what's to come. I think I went the wrong way. Or did I?
No, you went the right way.
Okay. What's my deal?
What nodes
Is
are
it
you going
not
to show?
working?
Oh, because I don't have the seal because I pressed because I didn't kill.
Yes. So we are looking at some of the most recent stuff. So we're seeing things here that people have not seen on Lamania yet, including that mechanic. We could just go and look at the nodes.
Yeah. Why don't we just jump to the nodes?
All right, we'll do that.
So again, as you're exploring the dungeon, you will at some point need to venture into at least one of the elemental nodes in order to get to Zuggtmoy. And the elemental nodes are carved out of the different elemental planes. We're right now in the fire elemental node, as you may have guessed.
There is, unsurprisingly, a lot of fire and lava.
And lava.
Hope you like lava.
Yay, ouch, ouch.
In each of the elemental nodes, there's an item you need in order to get to Zuggtmoy. It can appear in a variety of different places, so you'll have to do some exploration. Likewise, there are also rares you can encounter, optionals you can complete.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about these rares and optionals. How does it work? What kind of benefit do I get for doing them? That kind of thing.
Just as with any other dungeon rare, you get some XP for killing a rare. You also get a chest, and the chests contain, in addition to other goodness, crafting ingredients you'll need to upgrade your loot from the Temple of Elemental Evil. Sometimes you may just find a chest. Sometimes you may find a trap chest. Sometimes you may find just traps.
Cool. Alright, let me move on to the other node here.
One of our goals while you're moving to the node was that we really wanted to be able to reward players who either want to play directly through, but we also wanted to reward players who take the time to explore the various corridors of the temple, because there's really a lot to explore. I think that the first time I did the first floor, I was in there for an hour before I had basically done it, and that was just the first floor of the first temple.
Just mapping the first floor.
Right. So between the Slayers and the optionals, you should be getting good rewards for your time.
A couple things to note: in the first dungeon, you have a better chance of getting rares off the beaten path, away from the critical path. Also, in the second dungeon, you only have to do one of the elemental nodes each time, but you can do all four if, again, you're hunting for rares, treasure chests. Yes, the air node is full of air-like things. That includes air elementals, as you might expect. It also includes everyone's favorite DDO mechanic, light gravity.
Nice.
So there's a lot of jumping involved in that node, but you'll have light gravity, which should make it a little easier.
Yeah.
Jumping involved, but you should be able to do it.
I think we answered Jaren Aron's question, which is, are there benefits to going to more than one of the nodes? And yes, and the answer to that is loot and stuff.
Yeah, loot and XP. You'll be able to get more of of certain kinds of the ingredients you'll need for upgrades.
Right.
I don't see green.
Is it still the case where once you go into the final encounter, you can't do the other nodes?
Yes, that is still the case. As per the original module, the elemental nodes collapse when Zuggtmoy is defeated.
So plan accordingly.
But again, the second dungeon also has the kill count optionals, which refresh every time you play, so you'll be getting experience while you go through the nodes.
Cool. All right, so the next section here is going to show a little bit of Zuggtmoy. We're going to walk into the area at the end fight, not trigger the start of the fight, but just sort of walk in and give you a shot of Zuggtmoy here. So if that's a concern of yours, this is the section you kind of want to be aware of here. But I wanted to make sure that we gave you guys a chance to see this if you haven't seen it yet on Lamania or whatever, because it's pretty cool. So.
Right, so as mentioned before, Zuggtmoy is the demon queen of fungi, and she has turned her lair, where she's been trapped for countless years, into a little bit of home. So there's lots of giant fungus.
Mizm asked a question really related to our Lamania preview, which is, will there be more shrines? an answer.
Oh,
to that.
yes. In the next Lamania build, there is an extra shrine on dungeon level 2 on the west side, as well as one right before the fight with Falrinth on the 3rd floor. We may also be adding more in the second dungeon yet, but they're unlikely to be in the next Lamania build.
I'm going to try to creep forward here just a little bit so that you can see this person without triggering the fight. So I think I should be able to go about to here.
You can go a little bit further than that. Yeah, I wouldn't get too much closer than that.
All right. So this is Zuggtmoy.
Yep.
Now this is not a raid, but it's sort of similar to maybe a couple of our other party-based content where it's a little bit raid-like, perhaps.
Yeah, there's. It's definitely more of a raid-like fight than some of our dungeons where you just sort of run in and beat up the boss. There's some interesting attack mechanics that Zuggtmoy has, as well as the fact you'll be constantly taking damage throughout the fight just from spores in the air. So if you want to stay alive, there's some things that you sort of need to learn and do. But we've also added some ways of figuring out what some of those things are before getting to this fight. So should be interesting.
Someone wanted to figure out how many hit points she had, huh? Yeah, I figured you out. All right. R1NC3 asks something that someone else had brought up earlier. We do not have myconids in this version of the Temple of Elemental Evil, but we do have a good variety of monsters in there. Myconids are not something that is currently in DDO, and we devoted basically our work on Temple to things other than bringing the myconids in. So. Yep.
Right. She is a demon queen, so you can kind of figure out what you might get from that.
Yep. Danteel asks, what about all the demon kings? How come we always have
there are an awful lot of demon queens in Dungeons & Dragons, and not that many demon kings.
Yeah, demons apparently are matriarchal.
Nice. All right, I think that's pretty much going to wrap up our look at Temple of Elemental Evil in particular. We wanted to make sure we gave plenty of time for your questions and get some answers to that. And if a few minutes permit, maybe we'll take a look at just a couple of other things as well. But let's get them, huh? Do you guys have any questions that you'd like for us about Temple of Elemental Evil? And
answer to that on there?
Yeah.
Okay. One of them asked if we were planning to make the temple a little more solo friendly. The end fights, especially of the two dungeons, are a little bit hard on soloing, and that's intentional. They are definitely completable by solo players. We've done it. I've seen people on Lamania do it, but they are a little bit tough. On some of the heroic difficulties, the next Lamania build should be a little bit easier in those fights, in some regards, so that should maybe help in that way. Also, will Warforged be able to resist, or will Warforged be resistant to the spores? Not the damage over time, that's actually Bane damage, that's just doing damage not because you're breathing it, but just by the mere presence of them. A couple of Zuggtmoy's attacks do use poison damage, though, which Warforged, I believe, at least have resistances to, if not immunities to. So, there's some, but not ultimately everything.
All right, we got any other questions here we wanted to get? Let's see.
While we're here, I feel obliged to remind people that Temple of Elemental Evil is free to VIPs.
Yep.
And available in the DDO store for everybody else.
Yep, and Z332 asks, what will the turbine point cost be? I did check with Tolero prior to our live stream here, and you're going to find the price to be comparable to what the Haunted Halls of Evening Star is, so around that range is what we are comfortable in letting you guys know about right now. The final exact price tends to get locked in fairly late in the process. We do have a little time yet on that, but you can expect it to be in the range of Temple of Haunted Halls of Evening Star. Mm-hmm. Also, about the new Monster Manual, right? We are going to have a new version of the Monster Manual in Update 25. This will also be our last version of the Monster Manual to feature Astral Shards as a reward that you can get. We're going to be moving in some new sort of things after that point, so that's something to be aware of as well, that we do have a new Monster Manual coming, and you can get some Astral Shards from it. Urlock asks, is there named loot? The loot system for Temple of Elemental Evil, as I understand it, is basically the crafting system.
There are also some named weapons that do drop within the 2 dungeons.
Okay. Yep.
Beyond the crafting system.
Yep.
The 2 quests, do they use the same map?
No, they're 2 entirely separate dungeons that take place completely separately. They are chronological, though, so you'll need to complete the first one before you can play the second one. But then once you've done that once, you can go back and play either.
Okay. I think Technical 13 asks, will there be companions added for volume? I'm not sure if you
for
mean...
the monster manual.
I don't think we were planning to do companions.
There is a air elemental companion that comes with
Oh, you mean as a
Monster
reward. Okay,
4.
right. Yeah. Okay. Cool. You have your answer. The answer is yes. Sterling BDO asks, Warlock class ETA.
Not soon, but not far away.
Nice. Let's see. Hit us up, folks. We can pour through some more questions here, huh? Yeah. Let's see. Who would be a
When is the succubus race ETA? About the same time we get halflings riding dinosaurs.
Well, a lot of people have asked about tieflings.
True.
Which isn't quite the same thing, but...
Someone asked about the Gatekeepers. The Gatekeepers are a new faction we're introducing with this update. And whether they'll get favor rewards. The answer is yes, you will get favor rewards someday, but as there's currently only 2 quests in that for that patron, not with this update.
They don't trust you that much yet.
Yeah, they don't trust you that much yet.
Another quick question. We did mention the favor race. Rogue Pass coming with update 25. Z332 asks. I can address part of that, and we can probably turn it to some other folks too. Next week's live stream. So a week from today, next Wednesday, we are going to be focusing particularly on the rogue enhancements. I think we're going to have Varguil in to really kind of go through some of the trees with us. I don't know if you can make it or not, but we'll see what happens there. But we are going to be looking at Assassin and Thief Acrobat absolutely next week, so we can go into more detail about that. But on the question of is Mechanic going to be in Update 25, do we really have a sense of that right now?
Yes.
Yep.
Unless something goes terribly, terribly wrong, Mechanic will be in. The hold up on Mechanic on Lamania is that, I don't know if people know, but so when we were playing with it, the crossbow animations were really clunky. I'm sure that's no surprise to anybody who's played crossbows long term, but it felt strange to do a crossbow-based pass and still have that clunky mechanic, so we tore apart the system and redid the animation scripts for crossbows. So what you'll see on the next Lamania is that the crossbows, when you click it, it will both fire and reload, and for repeaters it will fire 3 times and reload, and queued attacks work well now with crossbows. In the past, when you were animating your crossbow attack and you clicked an attack, it could just get lost and the cooldown would go off. That's all been fixed. Also, because the crossbow animations are fixed to be all one script, alacrity bonuses that increase the speed at which you fire work on the reload portion as well. So this has caused the crossbows on our test servers to be much more usable, and we're looking forward to seeing players play with that and how that will affect various crossbow builds in both Artificer and Mechanic, and even Fighter.
Cool. Yeah, I was actually just going to try to see if we can take a quick look at that right now. I don't know if this is actually on here yet. Do you happen to know if it is?
Should be.
Yeah, should be. I think it might be as well.
It's hard. The problem is it looks the same, so I don't know that anything on the live stream will be useful to them.
Oh, you can show a repeater, I think, right?
Yeah, but what it comes down to is how it feels because you only have to click once,
Right.
And when you're holding down the key and you're firing, when you activate something like Leg Shot or another activated ability, they'll queue up properly now.
Right.
So that's going to be hard to translate through.
Yeah,
Sure.
so we'd really recommend taking a look at it once it's on Lamania,
Okay.
because that'll
no problem.
Playing with it is really a bigger difference than seeing it.
Civic Spoon asks, any chance of changing remnants to sort of drop within a few levels of the characters, just rather than just at level and over? I think this is something that we have been hearing, from some of our epic level questers in particular. I don't think we really have any plans to make any major changes to remnants at this time, but it is something that we are keeping an eye out for and looking at feedback and reading it about for whenever things might come up.
Here's our concern. Remnants are supposed to be really a reward for playing at a higher challenge level. So if we made that change, we understand that it's a good quality of life, but it also means that we're rewarding and almost encouraging players to play under level so that they can essentially farm them, and we're not sure that we want to make that change at this time. So we won't be doing that for 25, but we'll be keeping an eye on how that affects grouping.
Have the monsters in Temple of Elemental Evil been added to the monster manuals?
No Worries is doing that literally right now.
Okay, very nice. All right. When is the next update on Lamania coming? It's going to be very soon.
Yeah.
I don't...
Friday.
Yeah, Friday. Probably Friday.
Unless we run into a problem and it gets pushed to Monday. But what we want to do is we want to give the players this weekend to test. And if we go on Monday, basically we'll be expecting feedback during the week, and players. And then by the time next weekend comes, it's awfully late in the process. Yeah. So probably our goal is for it to go out on Friday.
Nice. DDO Legend asks, what about great crossbows? We could probably spill a few beans on that one.
Our goal right now, with the mechanic, now that we've changed crossbows and they're rebalancing, is that we really want a crossbow/great crossbow build to be viable. So we understand that players on that thread have had concerns that great crossbow won't be viable because it just won't hit hard enough, and we've been discussing internally what we're going to be doing about that. Now that the crossbow changes are in, we're going to have to go and do some DPS tests on that to see where they are. If you check out the thread, I think that some players have some good feedback that we're incorporating into the changes and trying to get at least some of that on Lamania.
Cool. Titan asks, when will Lamania be shut down? Typically our cycle for our preview server is we leave it up usually until we go live with the next update to our live servers, and then we bring Lamania down at that same time. So I would expect that you would probably, something along those lines would happen this time as well. DDO Legend asks, will Update 25 have new Remnant rewards? I know that we do have some plans for Remnant rewards in the near future here.
I think the next time we turn on new Remnant rewards will be...
It's soon.
A couple weeks after it goes live.
Yeah.
We want to rotate through the Remnant rewards sort of like as a big event, so the players constantly have new things showing up there.
Yeah. So stay tuned for that. That's cool.
I reserve the right to not be quoted on that, by the way. Because I didn't do that schedule, and I don't want.
I'm pretty sure we have stuff pretty close to being ready to go here, so I think we're going to see that fairly soon. Right. So yeah.
Just I don't want the. You told the players what?
Sorry, Z. Someone wants gnomes very badly.
We'd love gnomes.
I also want gnomes very badly.
We're on the same page on that. Warlock for now, and then because I like deep gnomes too. So ideally, we would release gnomes and deep gnomes at the same time. But we don't have any official announcement to make at this time.
Right. Starless70 asked the question on everybody's mind, when is Update 25? It's going to be very soon. I would say probably, it's not going to be next week, but it may well be the week after that. So that you can pull out your calendars and take a look at that if you want to. And then stay tuned for a more specific announcement on the day and time as we get a little bit closer to that, as per our usual behavior.
We want to make sure it's done.
Yep. So, and let's see. What else we got for questions here? Someone has a question about trapping and trap making. That's Technical 13. I know we do have some Update 25 improvements going in that regard.
Traps can go all the way up to level 27 now. The cooldown for laying traps is reduced to 8 seconds, and it's much faster to lay a trap. So if you're really meticulous, you could lay 2 or 3 traps and then pull the monsters into them, and there'll be a big explosion. That should be fairly well. If you like using that kind of play style. Trap making up in the level 27 doesn't really use more materials, because the traps don't really drop more materials when you disarm them, so there isn't a great increase in that in terms of that.
Right. Sayohoni, maybe? Airship fixes. When are we going to get a fix to a bug with a Trapsmith workshop? We are aware of that bug. It is has been bugged and is on our radar to fix. Will not be probably coming in update 25 though, but we are aware of that one and working to get that done as soon as we can. Let's see. Z asked about any upcoming hireling changes. I don't know if we really have. We haven't really spent a lot of time in the last couple of weeks here working on hirelings.
No, we've been sort of busy on 25. I've looked into hirelings. I think that we want to change it so that when you click stay here, the hireling doesn't run halfway across the dungeon every time you get hit, and that's queued up. I just don't think it'll make it into 25, and we'll probably have to make it into an update or even a patch after 25.
Yep.
One of the reasons that the hireling stuff is on hold is, quite frankly, all our engineering resources, we are still looking into lag. We don't want people who are experiencing lag in raids to think that we're not looking into that, and we're working on changes to that currently.
All right, let's see if we have any more questions here. I have another airship question that is related to a bug report that we are aware of here. I don't know, what else can we say about Temple in Update 25? Like I said, next week we're going to be showing off the rogue trees, and we'll kind of wrap up. Hopefully by that point we could show you some of the other animation stuff in that as well. And like I said, we've given you approximate release dates, so you can expect some more stuff coming. We did mention this on the forum, so I could mention this as well. We have a preview, sort of a teaser video that we expect to be released as well prior to the release of Temple of Elemental Evil. So that's something that is pretty cool that you can stay tuned for as well. Noisemakers, will they be given a longer timer? That's in regard to trap making. I don't believe so, but the cooldown's different.
The cooldown's different, so you can drop them more often, but they don't have a specifically longer cooldown. I don't know that we would want to make it that easy for you guys.
Yavanir has asked, what level will the heroic weapons be? They should be around the level of the quest.
I believe they're min-level 7.
Yeah.
I'd have to double-check with no worries, but I believe they're min-level 7.
Teomats asks, is Crystal Cove returning soon? Yes, but I don't have a more specific time frame than that. You can certainly expect Crystal Cove to be making a return sometime here, coming 6 months or so. So it'll definitely be on its way.
Yep.
So, yep. All right.
So, Cordovan, did we want to talk about the thing we can't talk about?
No.
Sorry.
I guess we can't talk about the thing we can't talk about.
Nope. So we do have one pretty significant piece of information about the Temple of Elemental Evil that we're not yet ready to talk about yet, but you'll be finding out about probably when Temple of Elemental Evil is released, and I think you guys are going to hopefully be pretty excited to hear a little bit about that. So, but that's really all I can say right now. Sorry.
Look at you guys chopping at the bit.
Well, I am live. This is recorded. There is video proof of us discussing this. So, all right. Yeah, I don't know. What else should we mention? Any final questions before we call it a show?
Yeah, I want to save some of the stuff for next week, which will be more rogue tree-ish. We'd appreciate people getting on the money and making sure the crossbows are fine. That's a big thing because that's a big change.
Z asked a question I can answer. Will Temple of Elemental Evil difficulty scale up like Devil Assault or like usual quests? Like usual quests.
Yes.
Devil Assault was specifically tied to a wider level range because it was originally released as part of an event. And so we had versions of the quests that span different levels, so just about whatever level you were, you could participate. But that's an exception rather than something that you can expect to really see with any regularity here. And Egg Hunt coming with update 25. It's going to be coming very soon. I need to talk to Lara on the exact day, but you can expect the Egg Hunt to make a comeback at some point here soon. So,
there's a question there that I can address, which is why the new favor for TOEE. 2 reasons. One is it made story sense for the gatekeepers to be involved, and for them to be the ones who cared about this. Also, we plan doing more.
It's almost like we're planning on doing more classic dungeons. It's almost like we're setting this up so that when we do more classic dungeons, they'll have a favor we can use.
Nice. All right, we're going to call it here. Just a note, we will be back in approximately a half hour here for our Spring Fling. We're just going to be wrapping that up within a couple of weeks here too, but we are going to be back at 1:30. And we appreciate you guys joining us very much here for our Update 25 preview, Temple of Elemental Evil on twitch.tv/DDO-stream. Next week we'll be featuring a bunch of other Update 25 stuff, so check us here, noon Eastern, -4 GMT, and I believe it'll be -5 by the time April 1st rolls around. So, because the 29th is when Europe's joining us. So we'll be back to -5 GMT there on twitch.tv/DDO-stream. Stick around if you are in our chat room. In just a few minutes here, I'm going to give away some turbine points. So enjoy that. Thanks very much for watching, and we will see you guys again soon. Wave to the camera, folks.
See you, buddy.
Bye-bye.
See ya.